Hello, I'm Citrus, and it looks like most of you enjoyed my Deep Striker rant. But a couple of you guys really wanted to let me know what you thought about what I thought about a plastic model kit. I think that's a little bit absurd, but it's okay. Let me address some of these points because I think they're coming from some pretty narrow perspectives. A few people really didn't like that I picked on the lack of articulation and mechanical gimmicks on the Deep Striker because I was oblivious to Gundam Sentinel canon and the context that the Deep Striker comes from. Most of you wouldn't know it, but I actually really like Sentinel, but that doesn't really matter because the context of the mobile suit, believe it or not, also doesn't really matter. See, contextual knowledge, in this case, really only helps you enjoy the Deep Striker more because it compensates for the missing features that the kit doesn't have. Let me give you an example. So let's say a builder doesn't have a lot of Gundam universe knowledge, and he wants to spend 20,000 yen on a kit, right? For simplicity, he can buy either the Perfect Grade Zeta or the MG Deep Striker. And it's a fair comparison because both kits are engineered with techniques from roughly the same time period. Even though both kits are basically bricks in the end, in the sense that once you finish it, you wouldn't really want to move it around. I bet that this builder, without Gundam knowledge, will enjoy building the Perfect Grade Zeta more than he will enjoy the Deep Striker, because the Zeta has much finer details, construction, and mechanical gimmicks. In this way, the Perfect Grade Zeta is feature-full, and that's what I meant when I commented on the Deep Striker's lack of articulation and gimmicks. It's just featureless. And we can throw out a couple of ideas for what the Deep Striker could have included to add more value to the buyer. LEDs for the head and cannon, for instance. Die-cast waist owls so that the whole thing doesn't sag. Metallic gem stickers for the sensor array. Water slide decals. Or maybe correct color separation for the O-rings on the cannon. The list goes on, and a lot of these ideas are low-budget items that Bandai could have easily worked in. The poor value proposition of this kit is just indefensible. Speaking of which, the second most common gripe I receive from my comments is price. Somehow, several people defended the Deep Striker's massive price tag by claiming that the amount of plastic required to make it happen at all just simply costs that much. That's just not true. If you look at all the runners in the box, new and old, and you add them all up, you end up with roughly 26 full-size runners worth of plastic. If we take 20,000 yen, divide that by 26, you get roughly 770 yen per runner. Now, to compare this with some kits released around the same time, the last seriously engineered master grade, the Double Zeta Vert Ka, works out to be about 430 yen per runner, and the Reborn 100 gun cannon is about the same. The only Gundam kit that comes close to being as expensive is the Hard Graph Core Fighter, which is much more detailed in nearly every single way. So in what universe does it make sense for the Deep Striker to cost that much? Okay, with that out of the way, on to today's subject, which is the HGUC Tristan. A lot of you guys wanted me to talk about this, and when this kit first came out, it received a ton of heat in both the Japanese and English-speaking internet. But before we get into why this happened, let me tell you a little bit about where it comes from. Twilight Axis is a novel set several months after the events of the Laplace conflict. The story is a loose adaptation of Tristan and Isolde, kind of like how The Lion King is based on Hamlet. The Feddies hired two ex-Zeeks to check out Axis for some reason, and the Gundam Tristan assaults them as soon as they arrive because some non-Feddy randos on an abandoned asteroid totally managed to build their own Gundam in the 3 years after Shard tried to drop said asteroid on Earth with parts from a Feddy prototype that never made it off Libet colony in the first place back in 0079. Okay, plot weakness aside, the point is that the Tristan is based on Alex, and true to canon, Bandai made the HGUC Tristan in 2017 based on the HGUC Alex from 2004. Sort of. The Tristan only recycles the A-plate from the Alex, so the rest of it was all new. But this made a lot of people angry anyway, because the A-plate held the weakest aspect of the Alex, which were its joints. As a result, the Tristan's articulation is pretty poor, especially by 2017 standards, and its build, despite using nearly all newly molded parts, was basically identical to the Alex, which is to say, kind of dull and underwhelming. A lot of people were perplexed, and for good reason, because Bandai spent money, right, to make new molds for Tristan, but didn't spend any time improving it whatsoever. The yellow and red parts on the A plate weren't even used in the construction, so why did Bandai even bother to print them in the first place? And besides, since all the armor was going to be newly sculpted anyway, why didn't Bandai recycle the joints from the HGUC Ground GM, or maybe even the old Ground Gundam? Either of those options would have offered joints in a similar size, with greater articulation and fewer wasted parts. Was adhesion to canon so important that doing so justified making an inferior product? In this way, the Tristan is exactly the same as the Deep Striker. Bandai took the worst parts of an old kit that was decent for its time and put them in a new release in such a way that it basically ruined it. But I can't get quite as upset at the Tristan as the Deep Striker for a couple of reasons. 1. The Tristan isn't outlandishly more expensive than its contemporaries. Sure, you don't get quite as much for 1500 yen from a Tristan than you would from the original Alex or the HG Barzam, which came out right about the same time, but it's not nearly double the price. Second, the cheaper price tag means the Tristan is less likely to turn people away from Gunpla in general. Spending 1500 yen to build a mediocre high grade is much more palatable than spending perfect grade money on a poorly made Reborn 100 pretending to be a master grade. And 3, the Tristan would not have been an unreasonable release if it came around with the Alex in 2004 exactly as it did in 2017, same price and everything. On the other hand, the Deep Striker coming out after the MGXS in, say, 2004, exactly as it did in 2018, would have been absolutely preposterous. I mean, how the hell do you market a kit that's smaller than the perfect Zeong, but somehow costs twice as much? We can probably all agree that Tristan was poorly executed, but I don't think Bandai actually cared. In fact, I don't think Bandai cared much about Twilight Axis at all, and just like last time, I have a crazy theory about this one too. Think about it. Twilight Axis is a pretty derivative work, it's still relatively new, and it's ongoing. If Bandai really wanted to throw money at animating a Gundam property, they could have picked any number of more popular stories, like Crossbone, Seed Astray, or Double OV. So why Twilight Axis? I propose 2 reasons. The Byarlant and the Jagan. That's right, not story, not character, not popularity, but mobile suits. See, Bandai spent the bare minimum to animate Twilight Axis. They hired a no-name in-house animator to direct the series. It was only ever broadcasted online, and the entire runtime of all 6 episodes is about 22 minutes. The story is told in a hyperactive, non-linear fashion, so it's not very easy to digest. And the Byarlant and Jagan don't appear for more than 15 seconds combined. Of course, that never stopped Bandai from selling model kits before. I'll start with the Byarlant first, since I care about it a little bit more. Bandai released the HGUC Byarlant Custom in 2012. We can assume it sold pretty well because Bandai followed it up with 2 flavors of the transformable Unit 2 as web exclusives in 2014. Starting with the MG Hyakushiki 2.0 and the HGUC Mark II Revive in 2015, Bandai was starting to tap into the Zeta segment again. So by 2017, Bandai was probably feeling out the market's demand for an original Zeta Byarlant, since they were planning on releasing the Barzam that year. So they re-released the 2 web-exclusive Unit 2s in January, along with a reprint of the Byarlant Custom. We can assume these sold well again, because the web-exclusive Unit 2 sold a combined 3 production runs across both versions. At this point, Bandai was probably convinced that fans were keen on an HGUC Zeta Byarlant, so they retooled the Byarlant Custom into the Byarlant Isolde from Twilight Axis, which is halfway between the Custom and the Zeta original. To make sure all development costs are fully recuperated, Bandai released the Isolde in August along with another reprint of the Blue Unit 2. Both kits sold well again for a combined total of 4 production runs, so Bandai probably felt safe pushing forward with the Zeta Byarlant, whose prototype was debuted at the end of 2017, and we just recently got a confirmed standard release for July. As for the Jagan, which I think a lot of you probably care about way more, the story is likely a little different. It's not a surprise that the MG Jagan has been loudly demanded by a vocal segment of the online Gunpla community for a long time. I recall seeing it at the top of many release predictions for many years running. Bandai must have been aware of this, but how do they know enough people will actually buy an MG of a plain Jane grunt suit? With reprints, of course. I can't exactly say when Bandai started looking into the feasibility of an MG Jagan, but I can safely say that they started at some point after the standard ECOAS Jagan in 2011. Since the original CCA Jagen came out in 2009, Bandai has made 17 variations of the Jagen, which probably makes it the most reprinted HGUC kit of all time. It's pretty safe to say Bandai probably has already recuperated any development costs for an MG Jagen, so that's why they teased the prototype a couple weeks back. Now, does it matter that the Burnham Jagen only sold one batch? Not really, because as the 16th straight rehash of the original Jagen, the fact that anyone bought it at all told Bandai that Gunpla fans will buy any Jagen. So in the meantime, until the MG comes along, Bandai gave us the heavily retooled EWAC Jagen, which is now taking pre-orders for its 4th continuous run. So Twilight Axe has taught us a few things. Of course, every reprint is made for Bandai to earn more money, but they flesh out our shelves with a richer spread of kits that we like, and they help Bandai make informed decisions about what we want in the future. We don't have to look far for other good examples of this either, like variants of the Zaku 2.0, RX 2.0, and the little-known HGUC powered GM. Originally released in 2006, its D-plate has been reused in various GMs up to the GM Canon in 2011, and subsequently informed the design of the entire HG Revive formula. Some vocal veteran modelers and elitists frequently deride reprints, saying that they're lazy, pointless, unnecessary releases because the original kits can be easily modified and painted to look like any variation. I think these people forget that the vast majority of Gunpla, or any hobby for that matter, is consumed by casual people who may not have the means or inclination to delve into painting or modding. For these casual builders, myself included, a bit of extra variety on the store shelves means more for us to enjoy, and that's something to be cherished and celebrated. And it's for this reason that in the last video, I say buying a Deep Striker is a legitimate decision so long as you enjoy what you buy, regardless of how exceptionally lackluster it is. A few weak kits will come every now and then, but I wouldn't want to have things any other way. So if you enjoyed this video and would like to see it become a regular part of my channel, please let me know. I really enjoyed doing the research for these discussions and talking about Gundam beyond just toys and model kits. I have a vague plan for a video about premium Bandai and web exclusives in general, and I think today's subject segues into that pretty well. If this video does well, expect to see that sometime soon, and feel free to suggest topics for future discussions. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.